I'm John Harris, and I've been attempting to make this video for smallballsuccess.com. I originally wanted to make more shots for the second edition of my book Landing Safeties, which is about how you can apply techniques from the deadball era to hitting today, especially for hitters of shorter stature who are maybe more line drive hitters and want to go for average instead of the long ball. But really, I think these are good techniques for any hitter. Now, I like to try to pick out shots, still photographs from an actual sequence of me swinging off the pitching machine. And because, you just can't pose. You may think you can, but you can't really. When you stand still for the camera, you're not actually in the motion, in the position that you are in a real swing. I've found that to be true over and over again. And in fact, the reason I'm redoing the intro to the demonstration that you're about to see is that in looking at the demonstrations, I found out that they weren't really showing what I thought they were. I was going to do 3 different versions of the swing. I was going to start with the kind of 1880s, 1890s swing, and I'll see if I can throw up a quick example of that. Yeah, this is Big Dan Brothers. This is a very typical kind of position that you'd see in those old tobacco cards that were so common, except Dan's front foot is not clearly pointed out toward the pitcher, and I was kind of surprised at that because it's so very common. And other pictures of Dan Brothers show him doing that too. This one doesn't even have the foot showing, but this is King Kelly, and you see the other features of this position are very clear here. The spread hands, the choke up. You can kind of tell that his front side is turned toward the pitcher, although you can't see his foot. And the hands are almost right above the belt buckle. They're not cocked way back over the shoulder. And I've always wondered about, and in writing landing safeties, I couldn't really figure out, now, how is that working, that they have their foot pointed out toward the pitcher? What do they do when they actually go in for a swing? I'm looking for Mr. Chance, from Tinkers to Evers to Chance. There's a picture here of his executing a very typical kind of dead ball swing. And of course, I feel like Victor Borga here. I just keep flipping through my... Oh, boy. Mr. Chance. Frank Chance. Well, this is Fred Clark, too. Fred Clark may be an even better example, although you don't actually see him taking a swing here. But he's a great hitter of the 1890s who lasted into the 20th century. He was the teacher, really, of Hannes Wagner. And you can see the position of the bat right over the belt buckle. He's choked up, hands spread a little bit. However, the front foot is not really pointed out toward the pitcher, and I'm going to make a big deal out of that in just a minute. I know that Chance has to be... there he is. The only reason I really wanted to show you this is that you can see how much on his front foot he is. All of these guys that I'm going to show you are front foot hitters. They're trying to drive down into the ball, get on the front foot, and take the stroke slightly downward on a straight line into the ball. That's the line drive swing that we like to teach at smallballsuccess.com. Now, in the demonstration, so I'm trying to start with front foot pointed out toward the pitcher, and I was going to bring that back real slow and easy and then drop down into the ball, which I think is exactly what Brothers and Kelly and Sam Thompson and those guys, Aurora, call them the great power hitters of their age who might hit 10 home runs in a season. That's what they were doing. But I found in the video, and you'll see this after I take the first couple of swings, I don't have time to get that foot all the way back and then down again. Now, the pitching machine, I'm pretty close to it as always, and it's throwing pretty fast, but I think that's significant because the big change that happens when you go from the 19th to the 20th century is in fact that pitching speeds up. So that's why you don't see in the baseball cards anymore guys with the toe pointed out toward the pitcher. I think it's simply because they didn't have time to go into that big wind up with their forward leg. And the second sequence that I'm going to show you in the demonstration, in fact, has the front foot closed a little bit. I think this is the easiest swing to teach somebody who's just starting out in this. You drop the barrel and then you lift it and let it catalyze the lift of the front foot, and then you simply come down into the pitch. That's really cool. It works really well. And in fact, I've made a video about this before, but this time I found out that it's really a good line drive swing. I got into a few of them pretty well after I was able to time the machine, which took me a few swings. But my favorite one is the one at the end where I'm doing the shuffle load. And part of the reason I'm rewriting landing safeties is I really want to explain that load much better. But that's where you actually, as you lift the barrel, you glide onto the back foot. And it's a very smooth glide. Your head's not really bouncing. That's such a adaptable swing. That was the only one where I was able really to shoot anything to the opposite field, which I love to do. But anyway, so I just wanted to take still photos from these sequences, and then I decided, I'm going to try to put together a video about this because it's a kind of a history of the evolution of the swing from, say, about 1885 to 1915. It's kind of interesting.
So anyway, that's a very, very short review of 3 different swings, and I think all 3 of them would have been used in the Deadball era or even before. The first one, probably more of an 1880s, 1890s, Big Dan Brothers, King Kelly, Sam Thompson, the big lift of the leg when the toe is pointed toward the pitcher is probably so time consuming that when the pitching sped up at the turn of the century, I think those hitters, the ones that still survived, apparently had a lot of time adjusting, and they didn't really stay around for much longer. The second kind of swing, which I think it would be the easiest to teach a kid nowadays, I think of guys like Jose Cruz Sr. and some of the Hispanic players of the 60s and 70s that I watched growing up. It's sort of that kind of, it's been around, and in some ways it's still around today. If you want to be a front foot hitter, it's a good basic swing. But still, the one that I like the most is the shuffle load, because as I've said, it has so much adjustability. It's so easy to adjust to the pitch no matter where it's coming. I think that's the only one where I actually was able to hold up on a pitch that I decided I didn't want to swing at, too. Something's to be said for that. But that would be a Tris Speaker type of swing. We know that he used it. I've actually seen a video of Ed Roush using it in batting practice. So I think it was not exactly common, but I don't think there were just 1 or 2 guys who used it. And I wish some hitters today would try it out. It's just waiting there to be discovered.